AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Kraft Mac and Cheese is better than 90s hip-hop. We'll remind you of your childhood without making you feel incredibly old. Kraft Mac and Cheese. Best thing ever.
Whether your business has 6 floors or 6 employees, Walmart Business has everything you need to save time, money, and hassle. You can restock your break room with bulk ordering or bulk up your ordering team with shared payments. And you can get it all delivered straight to your business's door, whether that's on Wall Street or Main Street. Walmart Business. It's the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with just 30 calories and no artificial sweeteners. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Hey, all you heroes, hawks, crows, rooks, and inquisitors. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we unpack, discuss, and theorize about all the lore behind the Dragon Age series.
We are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode will be covering a different topic in the Dragon Age universe, from character deep dives to exalted marches and elven gods. We'll cover it all.
There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about Dragon Age and its lore. I'm one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup, and I'm here with my other host.
That's me. I'm Shelby or She-Cup.
That's right. And we Cups here are bringing this episode to you with actual mugs and cups, because you might hear it in our voices yet again. We are sick.
Yeah, one of these days we're going to be healthy.
Yes. So
it just might be next year.
It might be next year. So like if you hear an occasional cough or you're like, man, Austin's voice is really quiet, just know that's why.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do our best and all of that, but I think we can just continue with our like rulers, families of the various empires, kingdoms of Thedas. And we're in Orlais still.
We are. I mean, we've only had 1 week in Orlais. So we're back in Orlais. And we've got this episode and one more to cover all of the Orlesian rulers. And so, as you might guess, we're going to be talking about the Valmont family, who is the current ruler of Orlais. So let's just dive right in, because we talked about 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Drakens. And so we're going to have a little bit of a dynastic shift in this episode. So let's get into some fun facts. First up, the Valmont family has always had an affinity for all things occult. Reveal believed in ghosts. Judicael I was fascinated by all things that were part of the ancient arcane. Grand Duke Renaud was obsessed with enchanted challah carvings, and of course, Empress Celine employed none other than Morrigan, a witch of the wilds.
Interesting. And like there's always been like a enchanter for the imperial court. Like Vivian serves that role for a while, and that's like what Morgan is there as.
That's her purpose, yes, but that role I don't believe has ever been served by someone who has never even been trained in a circle.
By an apostate.
An apostate. And not just any apostate, the daughter of Flemeth.
Right, of the Witch of the Wilds.
And not just, Flemeth. Morrigan is a Witch of the Wilds too. So that's significant, I think.
I like to think, in my own little headcanon, that
scary.
Liliana just like anyone who really tries to make serious moves against Morgan. Not that Morgan couldn't deal with himself, but Liliana just makes him disappear. She's like, don't ask questions. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. I also think Liliana is the person that got her the job.
I do too. Well, especially since I love this attention to detail in this game. Like in the conversation that Liliana has with Morgan about like, oh, you should do this with your if you're gonna do this, you should wear this color and do this with your hair, and that's what she's wearing when you see her at the court.
Yes, it is. It's such good attention to detail. But okay, my next fun fact is that the Valmont family is pretty much related to like every other nation in Thedas and their royal family. So they do have Antivan royal ancestry. They are related to Navarran nobility as well as the Pentagast family and all of their branches. They are related to Ander nobility. They are related to multiple of the other noble Orlesian houses. And we know that the Free Marches are just incredibly tied to Orlais. So I'm making the assumption that, hey, there's probably some links there too. Now, notable exceptions, right? Ferelden and Teventer, which two things I have to say. Regarding Ferelden, there almost was a connection between Celine and Kaelin. And Teventer is interesting because the Drakens were related to Teventer.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I was thinking about that Teventer thing because I remember last episode we were talking about the Drakens and that basically the Valmonts overthrow them and all of that. And like they label the last Draken as a usurper. And I wonder if this is something along the lines of like this, with the Chantry being so tied to everything, that what incites this kind of rebellion is basically the Valmonts stir up the other nobles, maybe not the people of Orlais as much, but like the nobles to be like, they're Teventer, like they're our enemy, like the Drakens are ancestry of there. Who's to say if they won't betray us to them or whatever, and they like really sell that up, and that's how they get power. But the reason that the first Draken is still so revered is because of the people. Like you couldn't just erase that Orlesian pride in that Cordelis. Sorry, I couldn't remember that name for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and one that I definitely agree with. But I also think this is also the nature of dynasties. Look at the European royals today. Like, they are all related to each other. And, the English, like, they're related to everybody.
Right, and because, like, the House of Windsor...
Well, they're German,
yes,
originally.
They're German. And they replaced the Henry VIII's line.
The Tudors?
The Tudors, the House of the Tudors, which were French.
I think there's more in between there. Because you have the Hanoverians. That's Victoria, right?
I believe so, but I believe doesn't Victoria and Albert start the House of Windsor because Albert is a German prince or duke or something like that.
The House of Saxe. It's Saxe something. Saxe. Yes, I think you're right. the point is, they're all related to everybody.
Well, yeah, when you believe that there has to be a certain level of inbreeding to maintain your noble stock, your options are limited.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, to be fair to the Valmonts, I don't know if they believe that, but it does not surprise me that if they did, want to kind of restrict their marriages to the nobility.
Right. Well, I wonder, with them being like the ruling family, it becomes a sense of like marriages aren't marriages for like love. They're political alliances, they're agreements that bind houses together. And like it's like a slow way of attempting to conquer the world is to bind every single noble house to yours in some way through familial bonds.
Well, that's a very Templar mindset, or Templar. That's a very Tevinter mindset as well.
Yes.
Okay. One more fun fact, and then we can get into some family history. So, Reveal Valmont is actually referred to as Ramil in the Masked Empire, which is a mistake. And it is understandable because we do have a Ramil who is Orlesian, who shows up as the Orlesian first enchanter of the Circle of Magi in Ferelden.
Interesting. That is really interesting.
All right, so let's get into the history of the Valmont family. So they are the current reigning house of the Orlesian Empire and have been in power since the end of the Exalted Age, so from about the end of the 500s. How did they overthrow the Drakens? Well, we touched on that last week, so you can go listen to our episode on the Drakens. But as a reminder, Alphonse Valmont I defeated Emperor Xavier Draken in 1-to-1 combat. But that's not where our story starts today. Our story today starts with Alphonse's father, Marquis Lambert Valmont. And so Lambert was...
Lambert?
Yes, that is his name. I don't know what else to tell you. I know you're looking at me expectantly, and I don't have any other information.
All right, well, let's get on to it.
So Lambert Valmont was a young captain in the Orlesian army during the Fourth Blight. At the Battle of Aisley, he disobeyed orders from his commander in order to relieve the Antivan forces. This helped save Antiva from complete obliteration. At first, his superiors were pissed off, but when it came to light that his actions single-handedly saved the Antivan king Azar Adalberto Campana, they changed their tune very quickly.
Is he in Last Flight?
No.
No, so like they get the king out of Antiva and then...
Yeah, I think all of this information comes from a codex entry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But as you can imagine, this instantly solidifies Lambert's status as a rising star in the army, but also just in general Orlesian and Antivan society. It makes him an Antivan hero, especially. And so, of course, the Antivan king granted him the hand of one of his daughters in marriage. What else can you ask for? Doing this then raised him to the status of nobility. A lion adorned the symbol of his newly created heraldry, which then became the symbol of the House of Valmont.
I think it's really interesting because Game of Thrones, like Dragon Age takes a lot of inspiration from Game of Thrones.
I would say some. I wouldn't say a lot.
It's one of the. It's a named.
It's an influence. Yeah,
it's a named influence by the creators.
Yeah, one of many.
Yes, and I just think it's interesting, and like this is common. Like lions, dragons, all these are very common in nobility, heraldry, and all of that. But like there are two major players in here in Orlais. This house with a lion and this house with a dragon. Whereas in Westeros there is two big major players in the sense of a house with a lion and a house with a dragon. And the house of the lion overthrows the house of the dragon. Now, I know in Game of Thrones you have the Baratheons and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting comparison.
It is for sure. And I think that's and they probably did take inspiration there. But so he gets this title of nobility from Antiva, and so of course the Orlesian emperor has to give him land and title in Orlais in response, because it's just, you can't have somebody that's prominent in society that's a member of your country that then is a noble elsewhere but not at home. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So he returns to Val Royeaux with both a noble title and a new royal wife, which earned him the nickname of the Swaggering Lion from jealous nobles, which he gladly embraced. So this really paints a picture of what Lambert Valmont is like.
Interesting that, like, again, like, we see time and time again, like, these really move-changing nobles and people who start these big movements. Maybe not, obviously Alphonse Valmont is the one who really takes the power, but it all starts with Lambert, and the thing that they always start out as outsiders, almost, coming in.
Yeah, but my question is, like, is Alphonse able to do what he does if he isn't raised by somebody whose nickname is the Swaggering Lion? Does he have the confidence and the wherewithal and the daring to actually challenge the emperor to hand-to-hand combat? I think no.
No, absolutely not.
So I think that his father's history is important to get into.
Absolutely.
But for Alphonse, it's not until his role that the family would be raised from nobility to royalty. And so when Alphonse becomes emperor, he changes the symbol of Orlais from the dragon to the lion. He is also the emperor who built a palace on the grounds of Halam-Sharal, which we know as the Winter Palace. But at first, it was named Chateau Lion and served as a retreat for his brothers and their families. In 571 Exalted, Alphonse's sister was chosen as the Divine, assuming the name Divine Amara III. Her family's relation to the emperor actually made her ascension to the Sunburst throne fairly controversial, because, of course, her relation to the emperor, but also because she had not even achieved the rank of revered mother. And so it even looked more like nepotism. Allegedly, she was said to have enjoyed the bonfires. She was said to have enjoyed bonfires that were fueled by the bodies of Maleficarum, ruled the chantry with an iron fist, and took a man named Sir Nolan Brisson, a Templar and Knight Divine. She took him as her lover. So she's a very controversial figure for many reasons, not just one, which means that it should come as no surprise that in 585 Exalted, she dies under suspicious circumstances. When Alphonse hears about his sister's death, he calls for a hunt to uncover the conspirators, figure out who did this. This leads to the imprisonment of many, many chantry members and the execution of 3. In the end, Alphonse was never able to find the culprit. No one was ever convicted of killing Amara, and her death remains a mystery to this day.
Yeah, I know we don't really, as you were about to tell us, and a little bit of spoiler, that we don't really know much about the end of his rule, but I don't see him having much success after these 2 blunders. Basically installing someone who is not fit to rule as divine.
Yeah.
And a sense of, like, up until under the Drakens, yeah, there was the emperor, but, like, the divine and the emperor had different powers. I think they were on, like, equal level, and their authority didn't really overlap.
Yeah.
So, like, Alphonse influencing who will be the divine is an overstep of the intended relationship between the 2 bodies.
Yes, I agree completely. And I think it does kind of impact like where the Chantry goes in the future. But I also think, Divine Amara is significant because she's not the first one we know of that's like not in it for the right reasons, obviously not, but she is one of the early ones we know of that has a lover, a known lover, which we have discussed in the past. Like, is this allowed? Is it not? Clearly it's not looked on favorably, but it's been done many times. So the last thing I want to say about Alphonse is that we don't know how he died. And we don't know who succeeded him as emperor. And we know very little about the last years of his reign. In fact, we actually have to skip forward like 2 centuries to get to the next Valmont emperor.
Yeah, I get this. And I get like why this is the case. Because, when you create a world that has existed at least for, 2 millennia, which is about how long recorded history of the Dragon Age is, because we have about like 1,000 years of the Ancient Age, and then we're on 900 plus for everything else. My thing about this is like, and this coming from a D&D kind of thing, it's hard to create like normal lived rulers and do all of that. It's one of the reasons in my D&D campaign that my kings live for centuries, because then I only have to come up with a couple of them.
This is so funny. This perfectly illustrates the kind of people we are, because in my world for D&D, I have like a 3-page annotated chart in Microsoft Word that has a list of all of my rulers in chronological order, with the dates of their life, with the dates of their reign, with their titles, with the things that they did that were significant, with information about how like the people in the world viewed them from the beginning of the country to the modern day.
Yeah, I've got a nobility tree that does the noble houses.
I also have that. Anyway, I'm organized and you're not. That's what I'm taking away from this. So, any last thoughts about Alphonse and the transition from the Drakens to the Valmonts before we get into our mid-break?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm just excited to kind of see like the actual, because this is like the origin very much of the dynasty. I'm curious to see how the dynasty plays out, because I know how it like, quote,
you know
unquote,
how it ends.
Well, ends quote unquote, yeah, or whatever. But like I know where it is currently and what it's like, and like there are some duds in there, Megrin. So I'm just curious to kind of see how that gets in there.
Let's get into our mid-break.
I've got this nefarious plan to go around to each of them and secretly tell them all the nasty things you said. That way they'll mutiny and I shall become...
So good, so good, so good.
Spring styles are at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and they're up to 60% off. Stock up and save on Rag & Bone, Madewell, Vince, All Saints, and more of your favorites.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Why do we rack? For the hottest deals. There's so many good brands.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
You said this place was steps from the water.
We just haven't found the steps yet.
How much did we save?
Enough.
Enough to get lost?
Or you could book a stay with Hilton.
Welcome to your oceanfront room, just steps from the water.
The Hilton sale is on now. Book on Hilton.com or the Hilton app and save up to 20% to get the stay you expected. When you want savings, not surprises, it matters where you stay. Hilton, for the stay.
Kayak gets my flight, hotel, and rental car right, so I can tune out travel advice that's just plain wrong.
Bro, Skycoin. Way better than points.
Never fly during a Scorpio full moon.
Just tell the manager you'll sue. Instant room upgrade.
Stop taking bad travel advice. Start comparing hundreds of sites with Kayak and get your trip right. Kayak. Got that right.
I'm the group leader.
You know, we have more comfortable rooms and basically infinite space, so why,
Why does the trained assassin prefer a quiet, unassuming spot with good choke points?
Guess you just answered that question.
Besides, I'm closer to the coffee.
Just wondering if the feathered pauldrons are an essential part of the moody rebel mage persona.
What are you talking about?
I'm working on an epic poem about a hopelessly romantic apostate, waging an epic struggle against forces he can't possibly defeat.
What do you mean, can't possibly defeat?
Well, it's not a good story unless the hero dies.
All right, well, welcome to the middle of the show where we take time to thank our patrons. Thank you to all of our patrons who support the show. Special thank you to our first patrons, Genesis and Lisa M. If you'd like to join us on patreon.com, you can do that and sign up at any of our tiers to support us. If you sign up at our first Enchanter tier, which is $20 a month, you can come and join us once a month on the show for a topic that the patrons choose. And also note, I'm just doing a big Patreon plug right now. Also note that all patrons, regardless of tiers, do get to have a voice in deciding what our topic will be through a poll that is posted on Patreon. Another great way to support us is to leave us ratings and reviews on Apple or Spotify. If you leave us 5 stars and some kind words, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. And so I do have one to read today. This comes from Dallas H. on our Tevinter's Archons, non-chronological Archons. And Dallas H. says, love these podcasts. You guys keep my love of Dragon Age alive. Austin, we have the same theory on the Qunari creation, which I believe that is the theory, if you haven't listened to that episode, that they are experiments of Gillenane, crossbreeding elves and dragons together, which is, I think, a pretty common fan theory as well, too. They even posted their entire theory as a codex entry on the Discord, with them being created by one of the Forgotten Ones after their exile. Keep it up, guys. Always look forward to your show's 5 stars. Always. Thank you so much for that review and comment on that episode. I'm so glad that you enjoy the podcast. Lastly, as mentioned here, you can come hang out with the Discord here on our Discord, Cubs Podcasting and More. Share your Dragon Age theories. Talk about all kinds of things. Enjoy just the company of what I think is the best place on the internet. You can find that link in the episode description. And that's all I've got in the middle of the show. And so we can get back into our rulers.
All right, let's do it.
My people have heard legends of the Grey Warden's strength and skill. Though I suppose not every legend is true.
That's really helpful. What are you, the
This is a Bose moment. You've been there. Small talk's going nowhere, but then the Bose speaker kicks in. Music you can feel fills the room, and no more chat with Danny from accounts. Your life deserves music. Your music deserves Bose. Find your perfect product at Bose.com.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Your favorite local grocery stores like Kroger, Ralph's, Fred Meyer, and more are now delivering on Uber Eats. Get 40% off your order of fresh, quality ingredients. Whether you just got home to an empty fridge or suddenly got a craving to whip up something new, you can get everything you need delivered in as little as 25 minutes. Get 40% off your order with code Kroger2026. Plus, members get $0 delivery fees. Order now on Uber Eats. Orders of $30 or more save up to $25. Ends 4/30/26. See app for details.
Elven god of sarcasm?
Lies, treachery, and rebellion, depending upon the story. And how could I help? I do not have my ritual dagger. I cannot access my network of mirrors to travel from the lighthouse to anywhere in the world. All I can offer is what I know.
Helpful advice from the Elven god of, and I am quoting you here, lies, treachery, and rebellion.
Depending on the story.
You fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
Okay, so like I said before the mid-break, we're skipping forward like 200 years. And we're going to talk about Etienne the First. So Etienne the First rules from 771 Storm until his death in 821 Blessed. So about 50 years, exactly 50 years. So he presides over, some important stuff from the end of the Exalted Marches against the Cunari, as well as Kirkwall's separation from the Orlesian Empire. So some important times we've got going on here. Now let's get into Etienne's personal life. So he rules for decades with no heir. In 782 Storm, he was under huge pressure to either declare an heir or have a biological child. He had been married to his wife for 17 years, who he then would essentially divorce so that he could marry Princess Soteria Pentagast of Navarra. He is married to Princess Soteria for 15 years, and this marriage had also not produced any children. So he sets aside Soteria as well, sending her to a cloister. And then he marries his mistress, Marquise Yvette, which all of this, none of this, first of all, how do you have multiple wives and a mistress for 30 years and don't begin to think, hey, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the one that's infertile. Okay. Number 2, how do you not think that, hey, yeah, maybe I shouldn't set aside my wife that's a princess in her own right of a rival nation of mine? It's just so nonsensical. But, I guess I kind of get where he's coming from, because Navarra, they don't declare war. They don't freak out right away. Instead, they send their military back to take Princess Soteria back to Navarra. But it would be 50 years before they actually got revenge. They waited 50 years before they attacked Orlais in revenge for this act and how he treated their princess, which they strategically fought over the city of Perendale while Orlais was embroiled in the battle for Ferelden. So needless to say, Navarra kind of won that one. That's a genius in my opinion. But eventually in 799, Empress Yvette, who was once Etienne's mistress, gave birth to twins Reveal and Gratien on the eve of the Blessed Eight. I also have a picture. If you can Google this. If you Google Etienne the First of Orlais, you'll find a picture from Dragon Age Inquisition of him. I personally think he is just Dragon Age's equivalent of Henry VIII, and he kind of looks like him too.
This is exactly what Henry VIII does. All you need is the Chantry saying, no, you can't do this, and him being like, screw you, Chantry, I'm going to make my own religion.
Right, exactly.
Right, which is like...
And female daughters, and daughters, not sons.
Right. And I'm just over here, it's 17 years. And so, let's assume some crappy medieval noble practices, and let's say Yvette is what, at maximum maybe 15, 16 when Henry when Etienne marries her or something like that.
She's got to be older than that.
Yeah,
because she was his mistress for a while, unspecified amount of time.
Right. So homeboy is the problem.
100% he's the problem. Of course he's the problem.
Right. And so the question that I would ask as an individual would be are these his children?
Fair. Very fair.
Which I wonder how we'll play when they're with twins. I imagine there's going to be tension on who gets to be emperor.
Well, let's just get into it, shall we? So, Reveal is the next one, and he is the elder son by 1 hour. The elder twin of 1 hour. He is also referred to as the Mad Emperor or Reveal the Mad. He rules from 821 until his death in 851. Blessed. So let's talk about some politics. 3 years into his reign, he orders the second invasion of Ferelden. It would take 20 years for this to be quote unquote complete, with an Orlesian on the throne in Denerim, which is Megran. And Reveal was actually initially celebrated as a military genius for invading Ferelden, but this myth was very quickly dispelled when Navarra attacked due to his father's disrespect of Princess Soteria, as we mentioned earlier. Reveal's Chevalier were spectacularly humiliated in Perendale against Navarra and were barely even able to push the Navarrans out of mainland Orlais, which led to a severe nosedive in popularity for Reveal.
Can we talk about the Navarrans' ability to hold a grudge?
Respect, man. I aspire to that level. Like, chef's kiss.
Why are you declaring war on this? 50 years ago, your father disrespected our princess, and we hate you.
Yeah. And we will never forget it. Yeah, which, again, I respect.
Were the Mortalitati a thing at this point? Because I just imagine Navarra's, like, army being filled with skeletons.
I'm sure they were. I will have to look into some of the lore from Veilguard to see if we get any more information on, like, how long they've been a thing, but I believe they are older than
this. I mean, it is possible that, like, the Mournwatch are not really a military force. They're like a guard, like almost like a warden force, kind of.
I see them more as like Navarra's equivalent of the Circles. Like, it's not quite the same. Like, they have way more political power and sway, but it's just like, okay, well, this is what our magic people do. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. So, back to Reveal. He goes from being universally beloved and revered to universally mocked, the butt of every joke, and the target of whispers of the court. You can imagine that this really contributes to his mental health. And then also he had a pretty not good tendency to just hand out titles and lands willy-nilly to the people that supported him as a gift. So we've got a really toxic situation brewing here.
Reveal is the emperor during, like, the second invasion of Ferelden is, like, the invasion and, like, events of the Stolen Throne.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I was just trying to remember that.
Yes, but we're a little bit ahead of that because we're talking about, like, the beginning of it.
Oh, okay.
He's alive, I think, through that. Actually, no. I think Florian is the emperor in the Stolen Throne.
You're right. It is Florian because this is the beginning of the Blessed Age.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into Reveal's personal life. In my opinion, it's no surprise that he goes crazy. It's often said, primarily by Reveal's courtiers, that his twin brother was the one that was behind the court's criticism of Reveal. However, there's nothing in the lore to suggest that Gratian had anything other than his brother's best interests at heart. So, after the death of Reveal and Gratian's mother, Empress Yvette, his madness kind of takes another turn for the worse. He orders the assassination of his twin brother and his entire family. Gratian had a wife, 3 adult children, and 8 grandchildren who were all slaughtered and thrown into a mass grave. It's unconfirmed but rumored that one of the grandchildren, 11-year-old Vereen, escaped the massacre and has since, lived in secrecy, which I'm like, okay, hello, Anastasia reference.
Yeah, like, okay, so we've got Henry VIII, now we've got the Romanovs, like...
Can we check them all off the list?
Exactly.
So Reveal also tries to bring his mother back from the dead, which is exactly as bad as it sounds. The codex entry named Miroir de la Mer, Reveal's folly, tells the story, and I'm just going to quote it. And this is what it says. Miroir de la Mer was cut from Valriot in 849 blessed. It was the will of the mad Emperor Reveal, who demanded a reflecting pool large enough to draw his vain deceased mother back across the veil. Many shops and vendors were evicted to make room for his folly, and several memorials to the heroes of the first 4 blights were simply toppled. The reservoir supports little in the way of life, as the bottom was lined with lead to increase its reflective properties. Reveal intended it for divination, using boats as massive planchettes, but the work was not finished until the week of his own death. The waters see little use today, save for lazy or fornication sojourns by the nobility aboard decorative gondolas. Excerpted and torn from a disposable walking tour of the capital by Philium, a bard.
You didn't say that right.
Philium, a bard.
Thank you.
Philium, a bard. Better?
Yes. What a douche. Like, and this happens so many times in like leaderships, both in Dragon Age and like noble leaders in our world too. They make these like harebrained decisions and crazy decisions, which I guess when you're severely inbred, you know, madness follows.
Yeah.
Also, we're like really convinced that there were several quote unquote mad leaders who just had syphilis in history.
Yeah.
Because it causes madness.
Henry VIII. Hello.
I mean, it had to be like they.
It also causes infertility, so like, yeah.
Yeah, and so my thing about all of this is that like you're making decisions that are not only going to just like piss off the nobility, which is one thing, but when you piss off the regular people who gain hope by telling the stories of like the wars and great triumphs of their people and their past, and like trampling the heroes of the Blight monuments, like that's huge. Like Orlais is the reason that the second Blight is able to be dealt with because of what Draken like builds up and creates. And so like there's pride and historical pride in the country in doing that. And so they always make these decisions of like, oh, these don't really matter, this is just old history. And then suddenly now the people hate you and you find yourself either on a revolution or someone assassinates you.
Right.
Or both.
Right. Well, we'll get there. But like, here's the thing for me is like, as a ruler, you have to pick one. Like, you can either piss off the nobility, the ruling class, or you can piss off the working class. You can't do both. Once you do both, you're outie.
Mm-hmm. It is so consistent across history. Like, you can just spot it. Be like, oh, well, they made this decision and it pissed off everyone. They're not going to last much longer.
Yeah. And sometimes they can fix it. But Reveal's insanity, I think, does not allow him to. So I want to talk about the rest of his kind of like mental health decline. So like we've talked thus far, like, okay, he's already done some crazy stuff, but we're going to get way worse. So a man named Bernard Huilot, I think is how you pronounce it, was the chef to Emperor Reveal. And he was known for eccentricity regarding food preparation. For the emperor's 30th birthday, Bernard conceived of a dish that he called a nesting roast. It contained 3 birds, a quail stuffed into a pheasant, stuffed into a swan. Apparently, Reveal loved it. He thought it was the best thing ever. However, the chef thought that the dish was, quote, too reasonable. And so, for his 31st birthday, he created a modified version of the gift, that he dubbed, quote, his gift of flesh, a whole wyvern, stuffed with a gurn, stuffed with a horse, stuffed with a holla, stuffed with a swan, stuffed with a duck, stuffed with a quail, and then stuffed with a bunting that choked on a gold piece that the chef had forced down its throat. Many of the guests refused to eat any part of this dish.
Too much going on. I that's all I have to say. It sounds disgusting. It is an atrocity. To quote Gordon Ramsay, what a shame.
This is a big statement for me. If I saw this in person, it would make me go vegan.
Yeah, like, I really think, like, when you're eating an animal for food, like, I don't think that's wrong. But when you're intentionally making an animal suffer, like he does with this last one, stuffing it with a gold piece, of like, when you're intentionally taking steps to make something suffer, that's cruelty. That is something that should not be done.
Yeah, I agree.
In the sense of, like, you know what, like, you are quietly and humanely, you know, killing a cow and using it for meat, like, and you're using every part of the animal and doing all of that. That's not bad. When you're mass producing them and whatever, and a lot of horrors of the meat industry, I get all of that. But, like, when you are making, not only are you eating the animal, but you're making it suffer.
Yeah,
that's sadistic.
I agree. It's messed up, but it makes sense. I tell this story because it really highlights what kind of people Reveal surrounded himself with. And he is going to continue to descend further and further into this madness. He feared retribution for the assassination of his brother, and he also believed that the ghost of his mother advised him from the Fade because the angry shade of his brother sought his downfall. And this really does tie back into the beginning of the episode where we talked about the Valmonts having an affinity for the occult. He very much believes that his dead family members, notably not his father, are haunting him from the grave. He also began to refuse to see a doctor. He did not allow any kind of physician even into the palace to serve anyone else. And he also doused himself in tonics that he made himself. Famously, he wore armor everywhere he went except for to bed. And then lastly, he famously restricted the theater into pantomime only in fear that plays were being used to foment rebellion.
He sounds schizophrenic.
Yeah, I mean, he may have been.
I think that's really kind of like the madness vibe they were going for.
Yeah.
Especially like with the paranoia and the...
Well, and just like his dead family members like talking to him from the beyond, you know. So by 8:50, blessed, he never left his rooms at all, and only the chef was trusted enough to prepare his meals, which was done under the supervision of 10 chevaliers, so not very trusted at all, in fact. And he ate only venison, which is insane to me, but whatever. When he died in 851, his sons entered his rooms to find that he had boarded up all of the windows and surrounded his bed with rows upon rows of daggers.
Yeah, unwell, if you will.
Well, that's why he's called the Mad Emperor.
True. I think I've said all I want to say. Yeah, like, I feel like there's this moment of, like, he has this moment where he has this taste of glory with invading Ferelden, and then boom, Navarra's like, haha, you triggered my trap card. And he gets his ass handed to him.
It's all downhill from there. Yes, 100% agree. So, if you can believe it, the Mad Emperor did have children. We know that he had at least 2 sons and a daughter, and that Etienne II succeeded him, but only ruled from 851 to 855 blessed. He was assassinated by the nobility only 4 years into his reign. And that's all we know about him. So, before we get into our side character, this is the first half of the Valmonts. Do you have any thoughts so far?
They read like what you expect to read when you're reading European nobility.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like the Drakens and a lot of the Teventer are what you read about, like when you're reading about some of the like first Roman leaders and the Greek leaders like Alexander the Great and the Greek heroes and, you know, Charlemagne and these other heroes that exist, Gilgamesh, things like that is what you're reading about this. And then you're just like, oh, and now you all suck.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. And I think that it's just the reality of like building an empire versus being raised in a very luxurious environment and only ever knowing that luxury your whole life.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely true. And I think that like we see this across societies, empires, religions of this like comfortability that gets in there. And leadership wanes in that, and then new leadership rises up, and the cycle repeats over and over again.
Yep. Well, let's get into our side character for the day, which is another divine. Her name is Divine Joyous II, and she was divine of the Chantry from 386 towers to 399 towers. She presided over an eventful time in Andrastian history, namely the finalization of the Great Schism, which saw the Chantry split into the Orlesian and the Imperial Chantries. Of course, we know that the beginnings of this schism started long before her reign, but in 387 she found out that Teventer had revised the Chant of Light. They added their own interpretation of the Maker's commandments regarding magic, that magic best serves man by ruling over him and not the other way around. She demanded that the Teventer chant be revised to conform to the Orlesian interpretation, and so when Teventer obviously refused, Divine Joyous responded by declaring them all heretics. The Archon then retaliated by appointing their own divine, Grand Cleric Valhale, not only a mage but also a man. The Imperial Divine then becomes known as the Black Divine in Orlais and the rest of southern Thedas. In retaliation, Teventer celebrated her death in Minrathous and declares the day a national holiday, which then led to the next divine to name the next age the Black Age, call for exalted marches against Teventer, and cement the separation between the two chantries forever.
Yeah, I do want to pause here just in case someone gets confused. That's like not calling for exalted marches, calling for the number 4.
Yeah, FOUR, exalted marches. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of exalted marches. So one final thing of note regarding Divine Joyous is the constellation Chios. This constellation depicts an ill omen and represents chaos. It looks to me like a bird or a dragon holding a knife or sword. Coincidentally, it looks a lot like Solus's lyrium dagger. Divine Joyous, it was proposed to her to change the constellation's depiction to a dove, and she decided against that, which I just think provides an interesting insight into her mindset.
Yes.
That she's not peaceful. That she is willing to go to war against Teventer.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to have a moment here with this of like, I know I haven't finished these and I've only gotten like a little bit in the way, but like the Robin Hobb books in their like nobles, the royals who have names after virtues.
Yeah.
And like one of the comments in the early of the book is that sometimes they're either one of two things. They're one of two ways. Either they exemplify the virtue they're named for, or they
are the opposite.
I feel like this is true with the divines in some ways.
Yes.
Like, I feel like even with Divine Justinia, of like, I think she is a just person, but her inaction, her like fear of doing the wrong thing in trying to do the right thing leads to justice not being served.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like you look at Divine Victoria, like is victorious in a lot of what she accomplishes, regardless of who Divine Victoria is.
Yeah.
And other things like that.
But Divine Joyous
is not joyous.
No, she's very angry, and rightfully so. You have to wonder how it would be different if she didn't realize, if she had never known that Teventer changed the Chan of Light.
Right, and like it's a big deal, and I get.
Oh yeah.
I get Orlesian's panic and doing this because you're like, you are changing this, fundamentally interpreting this, and the last time your country got overpowerful with magic, you unleashed a blight upon the world that threatened to annihilate us all. So let's tone it back down.
Yeah, fair point.
I get it. I just think I love irony, and that's funny.
I agree. All right, well, that's all I've got for today's episode.
All right, well, thank you for doing this research. This was very interesting. I am very interested in where the rest of the Valmonts are going to go. The only other ones I know are Gaspard, Celine, and Florian. So,
well, Gaspard's not an emperor.
Right.
So he'll get his own episode.
He can be.
Yes, but we don't get that.
We don't know about his rule, if that takes, But yeah, so thank you so much for this research. I'm very, very interested. And thank you all for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. If you have any lore questions, topics to cover, or side character suggestions, join the Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet.
You can also support the podcast financially and ensure its continuation by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/DALorecast. If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, rating, or comment, or join our Patreon.
The Dragon Age Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Podcasting Network. If you enjoyed our intro or outro music, give a big shout out to Pipeman Studios. Until next time, look to the sky. The dawn will come.
Hey, Mama. Thanks for making all my favorite recipes.
Hi, Ma. Thanks for your unfiltered advice.
Hi, Mom. Thanks for always being by the phone.
Hey, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
When you ship UPS Air at the UPS Store, your items arrive on time or your money back. Guaranteed at no extra cost. Exclusively at the UPS Store U.S. retail locations. Visit theupsstore.com/airshipping for full details. Terms and conditions apply. Send your Mother's Day gifts at the UPS Store and we'll get your gratitude there on time.
When a wasteland detective and a vault girl cross paths, no criminal is safe.
You're both under arrest.
Don't move a muscle if you know what's good for you.
Based in Bethesda's Fallout series, follow Walter and Bunny as they traverse the Texas Commonwealth and New Vegas, busting big crime rings.
We'll need all we can to expand into Vegas territory.
And surviving anything the wasteland can throw at them.
It's him! It's the Mothman!
Featuring a series of nail-biting narratives and guest stars from across the Fallout community. It's anybody's guess what thrilling case is up next.
War never changes, does it, Bunny?
No, it certainly does not.
True Vault Escapades, a Fallout audio drama. Available anywhere you get podcasts.